Hello, Raptors fans, and welcome back to Raptors Report. Today we'll be discussing the Toronto Raptors game against the Philadelphia 76ers, but before we do that, I am going to tell you why the Toronto Raptors, at the end of 20 games, about one quarter through the season, are going to have a top 10 ranked defense. That sounds pretty unbelievable if you were watching the Toronto Raptors even just a couple of games ago, when defense was clearly the biggest issue with the team. They were really struggling to keep teams in front of them. They were really having a tough time keeping teams out of the paint, scoring inside. They were fouling way too much. There were a whole bunch of problems and issues with the team. It seemed like they were not going to live up to the hype. And I was just sort of baffled at where all of that sort of defensive potential that I saw in the preseason kind of evaporate into thin air. Well, after 10 games, the Toronto Raptors are 5-5, and the defense has picked up considerably, especially since Jakob Poeltl has returned from injury and is back to kind of his old self, looking mobile and sharp on that end. That's really helped the Toronto Raptors. They've also gotten some luck with the schedule, playing against some of the teams that they've played against over the past 5 games or so, who have been missing a lot of their star power, a lot of their offensive players. So they played against the Memphis Grizzlies without Ja. They played against the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young. They played against the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, and on and on. They have had some serious luck in that regard, which has really helped their defense sort of pick up and look better. But prior to this past 76ers game, the Toronto Raptors were only 0.2 points per 100 possessions out of having a top 10 defense in the league, which is pretty remarkable considering they were looking so bad earlier on in the season. And while obviously you can point to some of the things that have been happening, like playing against teams that don't have their lead creators, which definitely helps, I have found that their defense has not been as haphazard and out of control as it looked earlier in the season, where they were helping so much that other teams would only have to pass the ball a couple of times to get a wide open shot. They've looked a lot more under control over the past couple of games. Even against the Sixers, over-helping and being chaotic on defense wasn't really the problem. The problem was more about them being unable to keep, people out of the paint, especially wing players being able to stay in front of their man. They are also still number 6 in the league in turnovers forced, which is obviously quite good. It wasn't where they were. I think they were top 3 in the league in turnovers forced recently, but I will take the trade-off of not turning other teams over as much with not allowing as many blow-bys. I think it's just, you're a lot harder to play against if you're not giving up these gimme baskets. Other teams, I think will take turning the ball over a little bit more if they're going to be getting these really good shot opportunities at the basket. I think that they've improved quite a bit there. They have just been very good at limiting teams' three-point shooting. They are 8th in opponent three-point attempts. I mused earlier in the season, there's probably still some carryover. There's probably still some of that in the data, where teams weren't shooting as many threes because they were just getting, free sort of looks inside. And you're not going to take a three-point attempt if you're getting a layup. Like, that just doesn't make much sense. So there's still some of that baked in, but they are actually, I think, doing a good job still there. They're limiting teams from 3 in terms of attempts, and teams are only shooting about 33% from 3 against them, which is 5th best. And I think a lot of the time, clearly teams are not getting great looks there, but I still think that that is probably unsustainable. That will probably creep back up into, the 35-ish range, as will probably all of the teams who have a record better than the Raptors in terms of opponent three-point field goal percentage. A lot of the time that is just noise, and that will creep back up again. They have improved. So they were dead last in opponent 2-point field goal percentage. That is obviously not good. A while ago, like I think about 5 games or so ago, when they were 1-4, they were dead last in terms of 2-point field goal percentage, and now they are only 5th worst. And I mean, if you're starting at worst and you've creeped back up to 5th worst in opponent 2-point field goal percentage, that's still an improvement. It's obviously, they haven't gone from, worst to middle of the pack. It's only a minor improvement, but it's still something that you want to see. They've also improved their rebounding. So they were also dead last in total rebounds, and they've gone to 5th worst. And clearly getting Jakob Poeltl back has helped. They are, Jakob Poeltl is one of the best defensive rebounders in the league. He is a really good, good at boxing out. It's not only the rebounds that he gets, he also boxes out and pushes at the opposing center and the opposing, forwards so that other people can get the rebound as well. So that is good. I think also, I mentioned this on the podcast at the beginning of this week, that if you are a team that turns opponents over a lot, and the Raptors also turn the ball over quite a bit as well, those are possessions that are not going to end in any type of rebound for the opponent or for you. Because when you turn the ball over, no shot went up and therefore no rebound can be collected. So that will be the end of a possession that doesn't involve a rebound. And when that happens, that just organically will lower your rebound rate. Even if you're a good rebounding team, you may artificially look like a worse rebounding team just because you aren't getting a rebound on a significant portion of your possessions. So that should be mentioned. Although I still think that when Jakob Poeltl was hurt and when he was injured, the Raptors were a poor rebounding team. So now that he is back and he's looking right, he was not back yesterday because they're load managing him, his back, and it was a back-to-back game, and so he didn't play, and the Raptors did get sort of shellacked in that department. So, when he is playing, and I think that he will be playing the majority of the games, knock on wood, coming up, I think that they will be a better team on the defensive boards and just the boards in general. Now, with all of that out of the way, so after 10 games, the Toronto Raptors have a D rating. Somehow, when you bake everything in, they are still 14th in D rating. And they are 14th in O rating. So they are slightly above average in both categories with a plus 2.2 net rating. That is good. They are 13th in the league in net rating. If you were to tell me after, the first 5 games when they went 1-4 that the Toronto Raptors would be 14th in D rating, I would just be over the moon. I'd be like, okay, well, they must have improved significantly. Now I'm going to tell you why at the quarter season mark, so game 20, why the Toronto Raptors are going to have a top 10 defense, okay? And so this requires looking at the schedule and seeing the games that are coming up. So the next 10 games, the Toronto Raptors have a lot of games against some of the worst offenses in the league. So the Toronto Raptors face the Charlotte Hornets twice coming up. They are 23rd in offensive rating. They are going to be facing the Indiana Pacers twice. The Indiana Pacers are 29th in offensive rating, although they just did get Andrew Nembhard back. He's going to help them out in that regard, but still 29th in O rating. They are going to be facing the Brooklyn Nets twice. The Brooklyn Nets are 25th in O rating. They are going to be facing the Wizards once, and the Wizards are 28th in offensive rating, okay? So if you've been keeping count, that is 7 games against bottom 10 offenses. So 7 of the games that they're going to be playing are against some of the worst offensive teams in the association. Now, they do play 3 games against good offensive teams, so they will be playing the Cavs twice, and the Cavs are 7th in offensive rating, but they have been missing Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland for a considerable portion of the season, and they are still 7th in O rating. Donovan Mitchell is one of the best offensive players in the league. Ditto, Darius Garland, those guys have been missing, so they're artificially low. They're probably, a top 5 offense in the league. They faced them twice, and the Toronto Raptors already faced the Sixers, who are, really good with Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid is looking like really good and even in limited minutes. So those, they faced 3 teams. So the Cavaliers twice, Sixers once, Those are 3 games against top 10 offenses. So it's kind of like, all or nothing. There are no mediocre offensive teams to sprinkle in here. It's 7 games against the worst offenses in the league and 3 games against some of the best offenses in the league. But they're already 14th. If they can really shut down those 7 teams and, tread water against the Cavs and the 76ers, I think that the Toronto Raptors will improve to a top 10 defense. I think that is not out of the question. After 20 games, I think that the Toronto Raptors, knock on wood, if they're healthy and Jakob Poeltl is playing in those games, they will have a top 10 defense, which is really good. I am excited to see the Toronto Raptors get back to where I thought they would be before the season started, which is having a strong defensive squad. I think that they've got some issues, they've got some problems, but they've also got some big strengths. And I think that some of the strengths were on display yesterday against the 76ers. I think that they showed some stuff there. Why don't we get into the player evaluations? And this was a tough one. I think I'm going to give it to Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes was really good this game. He had 18 points on 14 shots, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 2 turnovers. He was one of the only positive players on the game in terms of his plus minus. He was 2 of 3 from the free throw line. He was 2 of 5 from 3. So he had an efficient night, and he didn't score like a whole ton. Like 18 points is good, but it's not like a career high or anything. The reason I'm giving it to him is because he was one of the only players that was actually like actively good defensively last night. He was matched up against Joel Embiid, and that is an extremely difficult matchup, so you got to give him props there. He was able, Joel Embiid had a huge night, like 29 points in 26 minutes is obviously an insane amount of points. But Scottie was playing the center role on defense, and it's not always about how much the opposing center scores. It's about sort of, how the team plays defensively. And while obviously the team gave up 130 points, it wasn't because of Scottie Barnes. I think Scottie Barnes was doing a good job playing in the paint, trying to stop people going to the rim. And he's giving up a ton of size inside. And I thought he had a bunch of really good possessions against Joel Embiid. He blocked his shot twice going to the rim. I thought Scottie looked really good in transition. Like he had 4 assists, which, isn't a huge amount for him, but he was doing a really good job of playing in transition, shooting the ball, playing against Joel Embiid in the post. He has the foot speed advantage there, and whenever Joel Embiid sagged off too far, he would shoot, and he made the shot a good amount of the time, especially in the mid-range when Joel Embiid would just drop all the way back into the paint. Scottie would pull up and shoot a shot. I think it was just a solid all-around game from him. He had a bunch of, 2 of 5 from 3 is also quite good. Yeah, I think that being one of the only players to actually play good defense counts for something in my book, and he wasn't that far off from everybody else in terms of scoring. 50% from the field, 18 points. I think he was just the best player for the Toronto Raptors last night, but it was pretty close because the second guy on this list, Emmanuel Quickley, I think he had another really good game, and this one might even be better than the last game where he had his best game of the season. This might be his best game of the season. So he had 22 points on 16 shots, which is great. He had 6 rebounds, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. He was 5 of 9 from 3. That's pretty much how he scored last night. He was electric in the first half. He was just banging shots. I think he was 3 of 3 from 3 at one point in the first quarter. At one point I remarked, we have the real Maxey on our team, because he was outscoring Maxey for a decent percentage of the night until, Tyrese kind of heated up in the second half. But I thought it was a good game from him. I think that his ability to shoot has been sorely missed for the Raptors. He was on the court. It wasn't like he was missing games, but he was missing the shots. And it has started to turn around for him. And I predicted this. I was like, listen, guys, there is a huge sample size of him being a good 3-point shooter. You just need to give him some time. And it looks like his 3-point shot has returned. 5 of 9 from 3, 55% from the 3-point line is really good. On defense, he was kind of being hidden. The Toronto Raptors were switching quite a bit. He was either on Kelly Oubre or VJ Edgecombe. Those guys weren't the issue on defense. He does try and box out, obviously when you don't have Jakob Poeltl, everybody has to be on board grabbing rebounds, and he did do a decent job grabbing rebounds from the guard spot. 6 is a good mark to hit, all of them defensive rebounds. And he does try and box out. He does try and be physical on defense. He was not the guy who was being tasked with guarding Tyrese Maxey. So maybe you have to ding him there because they were forced to play Ochai Agbaji in the starting lineup. And he was on Tyrese Maxey for a lot of the night. So maybe you have to take something away from there because you have to play a guy like Ochai, who's been just a complete zero on offense, instead of having Quickly guard him. And I think part of that is because it's the second night of a back-to-back. Obviously, legs are going to be an issue, and the Raptors really needed Quickly's offense in this game. Like, it was just pretty stark. Like, you're going to have a guy carry the offensive load, and he really did that in this game. Next up, this was a tough one. I'm going to give it to RJ Barrett because, well, RJ Barrett was tasked some of the time with guarding Trendon Watford. That was the dubious distinction of guarding Trendon Watford for most of this game fell to Brandon Ingram. So, like, it was kind of a toss-up in terms of who played better on the offensive end. RJ was more efficient. He had 22 points on 12 shots. With 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 1 turnover. He was good at the free throw line, 6 of 7 from the free throw stripe. Obviously, he's less of, the focal point on the offensive end. He did hit 2 of 4 from 3, so this game was just lost on the defensive end. I think that you can live with certain players going off, but, too many of the 76ers were able to get their game off, and part of that is because the Toronto Raptors have some issues containing penetration from the wing. Next up, we'll go to Brandon Ingram because Brandon Ingram, the only reason he's not last year is because the Raptors started Ochai Agbaji. Brandon Ingram had a decent offensive night, 21 points on 17 shots, 7 of 17. He was 0 of 3 from 3. He did shoot 7 free throws, so he was active going to the line. He had 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 turnover, so the rebounds are nice. And obviously, without Jakob Poeltl in the game, everybody has to pitch in on the boards. 5 assists is pretty good. The ball sharing is looking good. Offensively, he looked fine. He was making his mid-range shot. The real issue here was that he, among others, but a lot of it was him, was unable to contain Trendon Watford, who had like an insane evening, 20 points on 10 shots, 80% field goal percentage, and he couldn't keep Watford, the team couldn't keep Watford off of the board. 17 rebounds and then 10 assists for Trendon Watford. So when he was getting past, Ingram into the lane, there was some RJ Barrett there as well. He was making plays for other people as well. So this was kind of, not a very good night from Brandon Ingram on the defensive end. And that's going to happen, especially when your starting center is out. A lot of the problem with having, him on the perimeter is that his foot speed isn't very good. And Trendon Watford is a good driver, and he's also very physical, like he has big, broad shoulders. And both of those are kind of an issue for Brandon Ingram, who's a little thinner and it doesn't have good foot speed. So he was able to just kind of chisel his way into the paint and either score or make a play for other people. And then on the boards, he was just like a monster. So he was definitely one of the issues. Of course, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, those guys are going to go off. But you can't have a guy like Trendon Watford scoring 20 points on 10 shots. That's just not going to cut it. Last in this group, and it's kind of like he was inserted into the lineup as a way to contain Tyrese Maxey. And I think he did a good job containing Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey didn't go off until the second half. And he was 12 of 24 from the field. So it wasn't like he was stopped. He was kind of contained. He shot under his, season average of 33.5 points per game at 31. And he played about his minutes per game this season at 43. So it wasn't like he shut him down. And on offense, Ochai Agbaji was just a complete zero, literally a zero, had 0 points in this game, only attempted 1 shot. He had 2 rebounds and just no other stats. You can't completely evaluate him on the offensive side of the ball just because he's an afterthought in the offense. He's just kind of standing in the corner waiting to shoot a shot. But he's just like such a zero on that end because he can't shoot anymore. Apparently, his 3-point shot has just vanished this season. And he doesn't offer much else. Just not a good game from him. He only played 15 minutes, but 1 shot attempt in 15 minutes. I don't think he's a rotation caliber player anymore. So that's unfortunate. Now let's go to the bench. This one is pretty easy. I think he had one of his best games of his career, and that was Colin Murray-Boyles. Colin Murray-Boyles was all over the place on both ends, especially on the defensive end. He was, just like a turnover creation machine. He was only credited with one steal, but it was a really good one on Kelly Oubre. Kelly Oubre tried to cross him over, tried to bring the ball east-west, and Colin Murray-Boyles picked his pocket, forced the turnover, and then Kelly Oubre had to foul him when he dove on the ball. And that was really good. The blocks were refreshing to see because, he gives up some size on the inside. He had just an insane block on Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey skied to throw down the dunk, and Colin Murray-Boyles met him at the pinnacle, right at the top, got his hand on the ball and blocked it. It was unbelievable. I love that. 12 points on 6 shots. He was 1 of 1 from 3. Unfortunately, he was 3 of 6 from the free throw line. So the Raptors did get to the line quite a bit this game. 28 free throws, matched the Philadelphia 76ers from the free throw stripe. So you can't even complain about the officiating this game. They got beaten fair and square. But Colin Murray-Boyles was really good outside of those free throws. 12 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, a steal, 2 blocks. So filling up the stat sheet. He was a +2 on this game. I thought he played really good defense. Obviously, he's undersized for the position, and whenever Joel Embiid is on the floor, it's tough to grab rebounds, especially even against Andre Drummond. So Andre Drummond was the opposing center for Colin Murray-Boyles and Mamu off of the bench. He played 16 minutes, grabbed 8 rebounds, 3 of them offensive. It seemed like he grabbed 5 offensive rebounds in 1 possession. I'm not sure how he only ended up with 3 offensive rebounds, but rebounding is going to be an issue off of the bench if they're playing against another center-sized player. Thankfully, Andre Drummond went 1 of 5 from the field, so he was getting all of his own misses, so maybe it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I thought he had a really good game, especially as a rookie. You're grading on a different scale. If they show you something, if they're showing you a flash here, a flash there, it goes a long way in my book. So he had a good game. Next up, we're going to go to Jamal Shead. Jamal Shead, I think, played really good defense in this game. He was all over the place, creating turnovers. He was, shooting the ball really well. He was one of the reasons the Raptors were able to go up big in the first quarter because he was banging shots. He was 3 of 5 from 3. All of his points came from the 3-point arc. He had 9 points total, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, 2 turnovers. I thought he played well. I thought he was a, disruptive force on the defensive end. He did what he could. He guarded Maxey pretty well. He was playing in the passing lanes. He's a disruptive player who plays the right way, and when his shot is going, he is a good player, just a good player off of the bench. So the bench was not the issue here. Jamal Shead had a good game. Colin Murray-Boyles had a good game. Sandro had a good game as well. He had 10 points on 5 shots, 3 rebounds, so that's a little light. 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 1 turnover. He was 1 of 3 from 3 of 3 from the free throw line. He's a good straight line driver. He can shoot the ball. He has an versatile offensive game. His size really was an issue this game because of the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond. And, Trenton Watford getting inside, that was a big issue for all of the front court players on the Raptors. It would really have helped, not against Embiid necessarily, to have Jakob Poeltl in this game, but against a lot of the guys who thrive going to the basket. Like Trenton Watford, I don't think he scores 20 points on 8 of 10 shooting if Jakob Poeltl plays in this game. It's just, those types of players go off when the other team doesn't have a true 7-footer. So Sandro, he had a good offensive game, maybe not a great defensive game. And then we'll go, the 2 guys that I wasn't impressed with. We'll start with Grady Dick. So Grady Dick had 3 points on 1 of 6 shooting. This was kind of a disaster class. It looked as though he was doing a good job spacing the floor. The 76ers didn't want to help off of him, and that gave the Raptors some more space to work with on the inside. Unfortunately, his shot just didn't go in last night. 1 of 4 from 3, 1 of 6 from the field. And then on defense, he is bad. This is not a guy that can keep anybody in front of him, really. And the 76ers are kind of stocked with players who can drive. Quentin Grimes can get into the paint, Trenton Watford, Kelly Oubre. VJ Edgecombe. He was matched up against VJ at points in the first half, and VJ Edgecombe has dynamite in his legs. He can just blast past anyone, so I don't really understand that matchup. There isn't really anybody on the 76ers that he can competently guard. There's not many players in the league he can competently guard. His defense has been poor this season, no doubt about it. So bad game from him. Jacoby Walter had another really uninspiring game last night. 3 points in 11 minutes on 1 of 6 shooting. He was a -16 in this game. His defense didn't look good. He's not physical enough to stop some of the larger wings on the 76ers, and his bag is like puddle deep. He does not have any juice with the ball whatsoever. I was hoping that he could be like, in this season, a 3-and-D type player, that the Raptors could bring him on and he could really play disruptive defense and then maybe show me something with the ball in his hands. And that has been the biggest issue with him as a player, is that he just does not have much burst with the ball in his hands, and it just does not seem as though he has the moves to get to the basket. He also doesn't seem to be going toward the basket. It seems like he is, hesitating. He's not trying to cut with a purpose and get to the rim. That has just not been there this season. He always seems to get caught in the mid-range area and has to put up a weak shot. I don't like that. And, it's been a tough sophomore season for him. Hopefully he's able to put it together and show me something, because right now the Toronto Raptors, where I thought that they might have one of the guys, Ochai Agbaji, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, I was expecting at least one of them to sort of show up, pop off, and, have some juice, give the Raptors something on either end. And, none of them have really done that. So it's kind of unfortunate. In any case, this was a loss, but I was actually kind of impressed by their ability to stick around in this game. I thought that the Sixers were, going to run away with this one in the third quarter when they went up 10 and, they were playing fast and loose, free and easy. And the Raptors actually managed to stick around and, get it within 3. And that takes guts. They didn't lay down. They didn't give the Sixers an easy win. The Sixers played Joel Embiid 26 minutes. That's got to be close to a season high for him. And they needed him to play in this game pretty substantially, because when he was out, they didn't look as good. And Tyrese Maxey, he had a really good game as well. They needed all of the good games that they had. Trenton Watford, they only ended up winning by 10, but it was because in the fourth quarter, they needed to put all their starters back in and, make a run with those players. It wasn't an easy game for them to win. The Raptors stuck around until the very end, and that's without Jakob Poeltl. So you got to give them a little bit of credit. It was also on the second night of a back-to-back. So there are a bunch of excuses for why they lost this game. I am not ashamed of how they played, and I'm glad I watched the game. It wasn't that bad. So next up, the Toronto Raptors have a bit of a break here in the schedule, both in terms of time off between games. They play again on Tuesday, so a little bit of a rest there. And they also play against the Brooklyn Nets. And the Brooklyn Nets only have one win this season. The one win that they have came against the Indiana Pacers, so it's not like they've surprised anybody. They do not have a good roster. Michael Porter Jr., Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, Terrence Mann, they're lacking firepower. And also at the same time, they play a selfish brand of basketball. Cam Thomas is not a, distributor. He's not a guy that is going to make the right play every time down the floor. He jacks up shots. He's shooting 40% from the field, 35% from 3. He's averaging 2.6 assists per game. 21 points to 2.6 assists. That's kind of pathetic for a guard. And only 1.4 rebounds. So he's just a very one-dimensional player. Michael Porter Jr. can score, no doubt about it. He's shooting 47% from the field, 23 points per game, but he's also under 3 assists per game. I think the Raptors should be able to take that game. I think that the Raptors should have that one circled. They should, don't take the Nets lightly. You need every win you can get, especially if it's on the road. They'll be playing in Brooklyn. I'd like to see a victory there. I think that the Toronto Raptors can contain that team and they can beat them. So I'd like to see that, especially because the game after that, they're going to be playing against the Cavs, and they're going to be playing against the Cavs in Cleveland again. And the Cavs are close to full strength. They got to take the wins where they can get them, and that is against the Brooklyn Nets. In any case, that's the episode. Hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and also hit the bell icon so you know when new videos go live. Also, join the Discord. There are a lot of people talking Toronto Raptors in the Raptors Report Discord. Join up there and follow us on all social media platforms. We've got a presence on pretty much all of them, so check us out there. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.